One night, one voice, $1 billion mistake. The crystal chandeliers rattled. Every conversation died. And Ethan Vale, the man who controlled half the city's skyline, stood frozen as the waitress he'd humiliated 30 seconds ago hit a note that made his chest forget how to breathe. He'd expected her to choke, to run, to prove she was nobody. Instead, Lena Brooks opened her mouth and shattered his entire world. This is their story. Stay until the end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. Hit that like button. Let's begin. The Ashford Grand Ballroom didn't just host parties. It devoured them. Swallowed them whole in 16-foot ceilings and gold leaf molding that cost more than most people earned in a year. Tonight, the occasion was Marcus Chen's 40th birthday, and the guest list read like a Forbes article come to life. Lena Brooks was not on that list. She was below it. Literally. 5 inches below eye level for most of the guests, carrying champagne flutes on a tray that weighed about the same as her self-esteem after 6 hours of being invisible. Excuse me. She slipped between a hedge fund manager and his third wife. Neither one acknowledged her. The wife's perfume was so expensive it probably had a stock portfolio. Lena had exactly $47 in her checking account. She knew the number because she'd checked it 3 times that morning, as if repetition might magically add zeros. The champagne flutes clinked softly as she moved. She'd learned the rhythm. Glide, don't walk, smile, don't speak, exist at the edges of their vision like well-placed furniture. More wine, someone said to her left. Not to her. At her. The distinction mattered. She poured. The man didn't look up from his phone. Tips tonight would maybe cover her electric bill. Maybe. The maybe was doing a lot of heavy lifting in her budget. Across the ballroom, near the orchestra that was playing something classical and expensive, stood Ethan Vale. She'd heard his name twice already tonight, once from the bartender. That's Ethan Vale, Vale Tech Industries, 32 years old and richer than God's accountant, and once from a cluster of women who'd gone quiet and predatory when he walked past. Lena didn't need the introduction. She'd seen his face on enough magazine covers while standing in grocery store checkout lines she couldn't afford to shop in. He looked different in person. Taller. Colder. He wore his tuxedo like it was a weapon, and his jaw was set at an angle that suggested he was already bored with everything happening around him. His daughter was tugging on his sleeve. The little girl couldn't have been more than 5. Dark curls, serious eyes, a white dress with a bow that was coming undone. She was saying something Lena couldn't hear, and Ethan was checking his watch. Then his phone rang. He answered it mid-sentence, his daughter's sentence, and turned away. The little girl's face did something that made Lena's chest hurt, a kind of practiced disappointment, like she was used to it. Lena looked away. Not her business, not her world. She headed back toward the service corridor, balancing the empty tray. The hallway was blessedly quiet. White walls, fluorescent lights, the muffled bass of wealth on the other side of the door. Maria was leaning against the wall, scrolling through her phone. She glanced up when Lena approached. You look exhausted. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. Maria pushed off the wall. She was 52, had worked events like this for 15 years, and had opinions about rich people that could peel paint. Table 7 asked for you specifically. That's weird. Yeah, well, they're weird. Good luck. Table 7 was in the corner, half hidden by an arrangement of orchids that probably cost more than Lena's rent. 3 men in suits, hedge fund types from the look of them. Mid-40s. Red-faced from scotch and entitlement. There she is, one of them said when she approached. Lena smiled. The customer service smile. The one that didn't reach her eyes. Can I get you gentlemen anything? We have a bet going, the second man said. He had a Yale ring on his finger and the kind of teeth that came from expensive orthodontia. Mark here says you can't be a real waitress. Her smile didn't slip. Years of practice. I assure you I'm very real. See, he thinks you're an actress, waiting for your big break. The third man leaned back in his chair. Are you? An actress? No, sir? Singer, then. Something cold touched the base of her spine. No. Liar. The first man grinned. You've got the look. Tragic ingenue. Probably got a decent voice hidden under all that. He waved his hand vaguely at her entire existence. I really should get back to... $100 says she can't hold a note, the Yale ring said. You're on. They weren't talking to her anymore. Just about her. Around her. Lena's fingers tightened on the tray. Gentlemen, I need to... What's going on here? The voice came from behind her, low, bored, expensive. She turned. Ethan Vale stood 3 feet away, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass of scotch. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His eyes were the color of winter, pale gray, sharp enough to cut. Vale! The first man stood, suddenly animated. We were just having a discussion about talent. Hidden talent. Ethan's gaze flicked to Lena, assessed her, dismissed her. It took maybe 2 seconds. Fascinating. We think she can sing, Yale Ring said. I don't sing, Lena said quietly. If you'll excuse me, everyone can sing, Ethan said. He took a sip of his scotch. The question is whether anyone wants to hear it. The men laughed. It was the kind of laughter that came easy when you'd never had to work for anything. Lena's face burned. I really need to get back to work. Wait. Ethan set down his glass. I'll make it interesting. No. She could feel where this was going, could see it in the way he was looking at her now, not like she was invisible, but like she was a problem to be solved. Entertainment for a boring evening. $5,000, he said. The ballroom noise seemed to dim. I'm sorry? $5,000 if you sing. His expression didn't change. Opera, 1 aria. Your choice, right here, right now. Her mouth went dry. $5,000. That was 3 months of rent. That was her credit card debt. That was groceries that weren't ramen and electricity that didn't get shut off. Can't do it? One corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, something meaner. I thought so. The dismissal in his voice made something crack inside her chest. 10,000, one of the other men said, pulling out his wallet. I'm in. 15, another voice called from a nearby table. This was spiraling. Lena could feel eyes turning toward them, conversation stopping, the orchestra trailing off mid-phrase. I'm not a performing monkey, she said quietly. Ethan's eyebrow lifted. No one said you were. I'm simply offering you an opportunity. Sing 1 song, walk away with enough money to matter. Or don't, and go back to being invisible. He paused. Your choice. It wasn't a choice. Not really. It was a trap dressed up in silk and cruelty. But $5,000. $15,000. Her hands were shaking. She set down the tray before she dropped it. What happens if I can't? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Then you can't. Ethan shrugged. No harm done? Except to your pride, I suppose. Someone in the crowd laughed. Lena looked at him, really looked at him. At the boredom in his eyes, the casual cruelty in the way he held himself. He expected her to fail. He wanted her to fail. This was a game to him. She'd been invisible her whole life. To her father, who left when she was 6. To the foster families who cycled her through their homes like borrowed furniture. To the voice teacher who told her she had potential, but not the pedigree. To every person in this ballroom who looked through her like she was made of glass. But she had one thing they didn't know about. One thing that was hers. Fine, she said. Ethan blinked. He hadn't expected her to say yes. Fine? I'll do it. Her heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. But I want the money up front. That's not how this works. Then there's no deal. For a long moment they stared at each other. His eyes narrowed slightly, reassessing. Then he pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it up. Account number. She gave it to him. Watched him type. Felt her phone buzz in her apron pocket 30 seconds later. $15,000. Posted. Real. In her account. The ground felt unstable under her feet. Well? Ethan gestured toward the center of the ballroom. The orchestra had stopped completely now. Everyone was watching. Don't keep us waiting. Lena walked toward the open space near the grand piano. Her legs felt disconnected from her body. Around her she could hear whispers, laughter, someone taking bets. The pianist glanced at her, confused. Do you know O mio babino caro? She asked quietly. His eyebrows went up. Then he nodded and positioned his hands over the keys. Lena closed her eyes. Somewhere in the back of her mind, Mrs. Chen's voice echoed. Her old teacher, the only person who'd ever believed in her. Singing isn't about technique, Lena. It's about truth. Find the truth in the music, and everything else follows. The piano began. Soft, delicate Puccini. She let the first few measures wash over her. Let herself forget about the crowd, about Ethan Vale's cold eyes, about the fact that she was standing in a ballroom full of people who wanted her to fail. Then she opened her mouth and sang. The first note came out clear and pure, floating up toward the chandelier. The second followed, richer, gathering strength. O mio babbino caro, mi piace, è bello, bello. The Italian rolled off her tongue like water, like prayer, like every emotion she'd ever swallowed down and kept quiet. In the seventh row, a woman's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. At table 7, the men who'd started this went very still. Near the bar, Ethan Vale's expression shifted, just barely, just enough, into something that might have been surprise. Lena sang about love and longing, about throwing herself into the Arno, about dying. The aria was a daughter begging her father, but in her voice it became every person who'd ever felt small, ever felt unseen, ever felt like they didn't matter. Her voice climbed higher. The ballroom was dead silent except for the piano and her voice, twining together like they'd been made for this moment. She hit the climactic note and held it longer than she should have been able to, held it until her lungs burned and her vision blurred, held it until the chandelier crystals seemed to vibrate in sympathy. Then she let it go. Let the final phrase fall soft and broken and beautiful. Babbo, pietà, pietà. The last note faded into silence. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then someone started clapping. Then someone else. Then the entire ballroom erupted. Lena opened her eyes. The faces around her had changed. They were looking at her now. Really looking, not through her, at her. She felt exposed. Naked. Like she'd peeled back her skin and shown them everything underneath. Near the piano, the pianist was staring at her like he'd witnessed something holy. At table 7, the men who'd bet against her looked stunned. And by the bar, Ethan Vale stood perfectly still, his scotch forgotten in his hand, his expression unreadable. Their eyes met across the ballroom. For a moment, something passed between them. Something she couldn't name. Recognition, maybe. Or acknowledgement. Then his face shuttered closed again, and he lifted his glass in a small, mocking salute. The applause continued. People were standing now. Someone shouted, "Brava!" An older woman near the front was crying. Lena's hands were shaking. She didn't know what to do, where to go, how to be. Maria appeared at her elbow, grabbing her arm. "Come on, before this gets weirder." She let herself be pulled back toward the service hallway. Behind them, the noise of the party was resuming, but different now. Buzzing. Electric. In the corridor, Maria pushed her against the wall. "What the hell was that?" "I don't know." Lena's voice came out shaky. "I don't know. You told me you worked at a coffee shop before this." "I did." "You didn't mention you could sing like that." "No one asked." Maria stared at her for a long moment, then shook her head. "You're going to be in so much trouble." "What? Why?" "Because you just made every person in that room feel something. Rich people hate feeling things. It reminds them they're human." Before Lena could respond, the service door swung open. Ethan Vale stood in the doorway. Maria took one look at him and disappeared down the hallway like smoke. Lena straightened. Her heart was still racing. "Did you need something?" He stepped into the corridor. Up close, she could see the exact moment he'd been surprised. There was a tiny crease between his eyebrows that hadn't been there before. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" "Does it matter?" "I'm curious." "You paid $15,000 to humiliate me. I don't owe you my life story." His jaw tightened. "I didn't pay to humiliate you." "No? Then what was that?" "A test." "I'm not applying for a job." "Aren't you?" He tilted his head slightly. "You're working as a waitress. You have a voice that could sell out Carnegie Hall. That's either a tragedy or a waste of potential. I haven't decided which." Lena's hands curled into fists. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you needed the money." He glanced at his phone. I know you gave me your account number without hesitation. I know you're carrying debt you can't pay off on a waitress salary. He looked back at her. Am I wrong? She wanted to hit him, wanted to scream, wanted to do anything except stand here and let him dissect her life like it was a balance sheet. What do you want? Her voice came out flat. I'm hosting a charity gala in 3 weeks. I want you to perform. No. I'll pay you $50,000. The number hung in the air between them like a grenade. $50,000. That was a year of rent. That was every bill paid. That was breathing room. That was safety. Why? She asked. Because you're good. Because the press will eat it up. Mysterious waitress discovered at birthday party, now performing at Vail Foundation benefit. He shrugged. It's a good story. I'm not a story. Everyone's a story? His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, and looked back at her. Think about it. You have my card. You didn't give me a card. He pulled one from his pocket and held it out. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, the kind of card that cost more than it should. She didn't take it. I'm not interested in being your charity case, she said. It's not charity, it's business. He set the card on the utility shelf next to them. You have talent. I have resources. We could both benefit. Or you could just want to own something you don't understand. That stopped him. For the first time, his expression shifted into something that might have been respect. Maybe, he said quietly. But the offer stands. Then he turned and walked back through the door, leaving her alone in the fluorescent hallway with a business card she didn't want and a voice that suddenly felt like a curse. Lena got home at 2 in the morning. Her apartment was on the 4th floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and someone else's cooking. The elevator had been broken for 3 months. She climbed the stairs slowly. Her feet hurt. Everything hurt. Inside, she locked the door, kicked off her shoes, and collapsed on the couch that doubled as her bed. The springs creaked under her weight. Her phone sat on the coffee table. She'd been ignoring it all night. 47 messages, most from numbers she didn't recognize. She opened her banking app instead. $15,347. Real. Still there. She stared at the number until it blurred. Then she started crying. Not sad crying, not happy crying, the kind of crying that came from somewhere so deep she didn't have a name for it. She cried until she fell asleep, still in her work clothes, with her phone clutched in her hand and Ethan Vale's business card burning a hole in her apron pocket. 3 days later, the video showed up. Someone had recorded her performance, posted it online. Mystery waitress stuns billionaire's party. It had 40,000 views by morning, 100,000 by noon. By evening, it had gone viral. Lena watched the view count climb from her coffee shop shift, her hands shaking so badly she spilled someone's latte all over the counter. Her manager, Derek, appeared at her elbow. You're the waitress. I'm a lot of waitresses. The singing one, from the video. He looked at his phone, then at her. Holy hell, that's really you. Derek, do you know how much free publicity this is? We should put a sign in the window. Home of the viral singing waitress. Please don't. But by the next morning, there was a line out the door. People wanting coffee, wanting to see her, wanting proof that viral moments were real. Someone asked for her autograph. Lena quit on the spot. Dang. She lasted 2 weeks. 2 weeks of watching her bank account slowly drain back toward empty. 2 weeks of job applications that went nowhere because everyone wanted the viral girl, not the actual human. 2 weeks of her landlord reminding her that rent was due and viral fame didn't pay bills. On day 15, she pulled Ethan Vale's card from her wallet. It was bent at the corner, slightly worn from being carried around. She stared at it for 20 minutes. Then she called. He answered on the second ring. I was wondering when you'd call. I need the job, she said. I know. 50,000, one performance, then we're done. Agreed. I mean it, one performance. I'm not your pet project. Understood. A pause. My assistant will send you the details. Rehearsal is on Wednesday. Fine. She hung up before he could say anything else. Then she sat on her couch and tried not to feel like she'd just sold something she couldn't get back. But the rehearsal space was in a building so expensive it had a doorman who looked like he could bench press a sedan. Lena gave her name. The doorman checked his list, nodded, and directed her to the third floor. The room was all windows and hardwood floors. A grand piano sat in the corner. Ethan stood next to it, talking to a woman with a tablet and the kind of efficiency that suggested she got paid very well to solve problems. He looked up when Lena entered. "You came. You're paying me $50,000. Of course I came." The woman with the tablet glanced between them, then excused herself. Ethan gestured toward the piano. "Shall we?" "We?" "I want to hear what you're planning to sing." Lena set down her bag. She'd spent 3 days agonizing over the choice. Something powerful, something that would justify the money, something that wouldn't feel like she was exposing her entire soul to a room full of strangers. She'd settled on Vici d'arte from Tosca. Lived for art, lived for love. The pianist, a thin man with kind eyes and impressive credentials, played through the introduction. Lena sang. She made it through the first verse before Ethan held up his hand. "Stop." She stopped. "What's wrong with it?" Lena asked. "You're holding back." "I'm not." "You are." He moved closer. "You're singing like you're trying to impress me, like you're performing a role." "I am performing a role." "No, you're hiding." He tilted his head, studying her. "When you sang at the party, you were angry, desperate, real. This is—" He gestured vaguely. "This is controlled, safe. You hired me to perform, not to bleed all over your stage. I hired you because you're remarkable, not because you're safe." His eyes met hers. "Sing it again, and this time stop trying to be perfect." "I'm not trying to be perfect." "Yes, you are. You've been trying to be perfect your entire life. Perfect enough to be noticed, perfect enough to matter." He paused. "Stop, just sing." Something in her chest cracked open. She turned back to the pianist, nodded. This time, when she sang, she let it hurt. Let it be messy and broken and real. Let every year of being invisible, every moment of not being enough, every second of pretending she didn't want more pour out through her voice. She sang about suffering and faith and the unfairness of a world that gave beauty to people who'd done nothing to earn it and took it away from those who had. When she finished, the room was silent. The pianist was staring at his hands. Ethan stood very still, his expression unreadable. "Better?" she asked. "Better?" His voice was rougher than it had been before. She grabbed her bag. "I should go." "Lena." She stopped at the door. "Don't hold back at the gala," he said quietly. "Whatever you're afraid of, don't let it make you small." She left without answering. Quotes. The night of the gala arrived too fast and too slow at the same time. Lena stood backstage in a dress Ethan's assistant had sent over, black, elegant, probably worth more than her car, and tried to remember how to breathe. Beyond the curtain, she could hear the crowd, 500 people. Politicians, celebrities, old money and new money, and the kind of money that didn't need adjectives. Maria appeared at her elbow. She'd gotten a job working this event, too. "You look like you're going to throw up," Maria said. "I might." "Don't. That dress is dry clean only." Lena laughed. It came out shaky. "You're going to be fine," Maria said. "You've done this before." "Not like this." "No, this time you're getting paid." Maria squeezed her hand. "Go show them what they're missing." The stage manager gave her the signal. Lena walked out onto the stage. The lights were blinding. She couldn't see the audience, could only feel them, the weight of their attention, their expectations, their judgment. The orchestra began. She opened her mouth and sang. This time, she didn't hold back. Didn't try to be perfect or safe or controlled. Just let the music pour out of her like water from a broken dam. She sang about loss and longing and the impossible distance between who you are and who you want to be. In the front row, a woman reached for her husband's hand. In the balcony, someone wiped their eyes. At the back of the ballroom, Ethan Vale stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable, watching her like she was the equation he couldn't solve. When the final note faded, the applause was immediate and thunderous. Lena bowed, once, twice, then walked off stage on legs that felt like water. Backstage, she collapsed into a chair. "You did it," Maria said. "Yeah, that was incredible." "Thanks." She felt hollow, scraped clean, like she'd given everything to those strangers and now had nothing left for herself. Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Can we talk?" he asked. Maria glanced at Lena, who nodded. She disappeared down the hallway. Ethan stepped inside, closed the door. "That was extraordinary," he said. "You got your money's worth. This isn't about money. Everything with you is about money." He flinched slightly. "Fair enough." He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and held it out. "Your payment, plus a bonus." She took it, didn't open it. "There's something else," he said. Of course there was. "I have a proposition for you." "Another performance?" "No. A job." He paused. "My daughter needs a vocal coach." Lena blinked. "What?" "She's 5. She loves to sing. Her current teacher is," he grimaced, "not working out." "You want me to teach your daughter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because you're talented. Because she responds to genuine emotion, not technical precision." He met her eyes. "Because I think you'd be good at it." "I've never taught anyone before." "Then you'll learn together." He pulled out another card, this one with an address. "Think about it. The pay is generous, the hours are flexible, and my daughter deserves someone who understands what it means to love music, not just perform it." Lena looked at the card, at the address in a neighborhood she'd never been able to afford. "I'll think about it," she said. He nodded, then left, leaving her alone with an envelope full of money and a choice she didn't know how to make. She opened the envelope. $75,000. 25 more than they'd agreed. She stared at the check until the numbers blurred. Then she tucked it carefully into her bag, straightened her shoulders, and walked back out into a world that suddenly felt a lot more complicated than it had 6 weeks ago. The check sat on Lena's kitchen counter for 3 days before she deposited it. Even then, she half expected it to bounce. Expected someone to call and say there'd been a mistake, that she wasn't actually worth $75,000 for 2 hours of work. But the money cleared, showed up in her account like a small miracle she didn't know what to do with. She paid off her credit cards first, then her student loans, then sat on her couch staring at the remaining balance and feeling like she'd stolen something. Ethan's card with his daughter's address was still in her wallet. She'd looked at it maybe 50 times. Never called. Teaching a 5-year-old seemed simple enough, except nothing involving Ethan Vale was ever simple. She'd learned that much already. On day 4, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Brooks." A woman's voice, professional, clipped. "This is Caroline Pierce, Mr. Vale's personal assistant. He asked me to follow up regarding the position we discussed." Lena closed her eyes. "I haven't decided yet." "Of course. However, Mr. Vale wanted me to inform you that his previous vocal instructor terminated her contract yesterday. His daughter's lessons are currently suspended, and he'd like to resume them as soon as possible." There was something in the way Caroline said it, not quite desperate, but close. "What happened to the other teacher?" Lena asked. A pause. "She found Sophia challenging." "Challenging how?" "Perhaps it would be better if you met her yourself. Would tomorrow at 10 work for you?" Lena looked around her apartment, at the peeling paint and the radiator that clanked and the window that didn't quite close all the way. She'd paid her rent through the end of the year, but that money wouldn't last forever. "Fine," she said. "Tomorrow at 10. "Excellent. I'll send a car." "That's not necessary." But Caroline had already hung up. The car arrived at 9:30. Black, sleek, the kind that had a driver who opened doors and didn't make small talk. The kind Lena had only ever seen in movies. She climbed in wearing the nicest thing she owned that wasn't the dress from the gala. A gray sweater and black pants that were almost professional if you didn't look too close. The drive took 40 minutes. Out of her neighborhood, through progressively nicer ones, until they reached a part of the city where the buildings had names instead of numbers, and doormen who looked like they could end you. Ethan's building was all glass and steel, and the kind of architecture that won awards. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Caroline met her in the lobby. She was maybe 40, with perfect posture and eyes that cataloged everything in 3 seconds flat. "Miss Brooks? Thank you for coming." She handed Lena a tablet. "This is Sophia's schedule, her dietary restrictions, and notes from her previous instructors. Mr. Vale is currently in a meeting but should be available shortly." Lena glanced at the tablet. The schedule was color-coded. The dietary restrictions took up 2 pages. The notes from previous instructors were extensive. How many teachers has she had? Lena asked. 6, in the past year. 6? Sophia is very particular. Caroline led her toward the private elevator. She's also extremely intelligent, which can be difficult for teachers who aren't prepared for that level of engagement. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. Lena stepped out and tried not to stare. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. The furniture was modern and expensive and looked like no one had ever actually sat on it. Everything was white or black or chrome, perfectly placed, perfectly clean. It looked like a magazine spread, not a home. "This way," Caroline said. They walked down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than Lena's car. At the end was a door slightly ajar. Inside, a little girl sat on the floor surrounded by books. Dark curls pulled back with a headband. Serious eyes. The same white dress from the party, now wrinkled and marked with what looked like marker stains. "Sophia," Caroline said gently, "your new vocal instructor is here." Sophia looked up, studied Lena with the kind of intensity that was unnerving in a 5-year-old. "You're the waitress," she said. "I was," Lena said. "Now I'm your teacher, if you want." "Do you know my daddy?" "We've met." "Do you like him?" The question was so direct it took Lena a second to process. "I don't really know him." "Most people don't." Sophia went back to her book. "He's very busy." Caroline cleared her throat. "I'll leave you two to get acquainted. Mr. Vale should be finished shortly." She left, closing the door behind her. Lena stood there awkwardly. She'd prepared for teaching, for vocal exercises and breathing techniques, not for a 5-year-old who talked like a tiny adult. "What are you reading?" Lena asked finally. Sophia held up the book. "The Secret Garden." "That's a good one." "It's sad." Sophia looked back at the page. "Everyone's sad and they don't know how to fix it." Lena sat down on the floor, not on the pristine white rug, but close enough. "Yeah, but they figure it out eventually." "Do they? You haven't finished it?" "I started it 3 times. I always stop at the same part." Sophia closed the book carefully. "When Mary finds the garden, because I know what happens next and I don't want it to." "What happens next?" "She gets happy, and then something bad will probably happen because that's how stories work." Lena's chest did something complicated. "Not all stories." "Most of them." Sophia set the book aside and looked at Lena directly. "Are you going to leave too?" "I just got here. The other teachers left. Mrs. Morrison said I was unteachable. Miss Patricia said I was difficult. Mr. Chen didn't say anything. He just stopped coming." "Why did they think you were difficult?" Sophia shrugged. "I asked too many questions. I didn't want to sing the songs they picked. I don't like people who lie." "About what?" "About everything being fine when it's not." She picked at the edge of her dress. "About my mommy coming back. About daddy being happy. About any of it." Lena felt something crack in her chest. This kid was 5 years old and already carrying around the kind of weight that should come with decades. "I'm not going to lie to you," Lena said quietly. "Promise?" "Promise." Sophia studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. You can stay." "I'm honored." "Don't be. I might still hate you tomorrow." Lena laughed. Couldn't help it. "Fair enough." "Do you want to hear me sing?" Sophia asked. "Only if you want to." "I do." She stood up, brushed off her dress, and walked over to a small keyboard in the corner. "Miss Patricia said I have perfect pitch, but poor breath control. Mr. Chen said I rush the tempo. Mrs. Morrison said I'm too quiet." "What do you say?" Sophia thought about it. "I say I don't like singing when people are watching me like I'm going to mess up." "Then don't think of it as performing. Think of it as—" Lena paused. "Think of it as telling a secret. Just you and the music." Sophia's eyes brightened slightly. She pressed a key on the keyboard, then another, started humming something Lena didn't recognize. Then she sang. Her voice was small and sweet and surprisingly strong for someone her age. She sang a lullaby, something simple, something pure, and Lena could hear the potential underneath, the natural musicality, the emotion. When she finished, she looked at Lena nervously. "What did you think?" "I think you're going to be extraordinary." Lena said honestly. But more than that, I think you already love music. And that's the most important part. Sophia smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed her whole face. Can you teach me the song you sang at the party? That's opera. It's pretty advanced. I don't care. I want to learn it. It's in Italian. I'm learning French. Italian can't be that different. Lena bit back a laugh. Okay, we'll work up to it. Deal? Deal. The door opened. Ethan stood in the doorway, still in his suit, his tie loosened slightly. He looked tired. More tired than he had at the party. I see you two have met, he said. Miss Brooks is going to teach me opera, Sophia announced. Is she? In Italian. Of course. His eyes met Lena's. Can I speak with you for a moment? Lena followed him out into the hallway. He closed the door behind them. Thank you for coming, he said. You didn't really give me a choice. You could have said no. Could I? He almost smiled. Almost. How did it go? She's smart, really smart, and she's been let down by a lot of people. I know. Do you? The words came out sharper than she meant them. His expression tightened. What's that supposed to mean? It means she's 5 years old and she's already figured out that the adults in her life aren't being honest with her. Lena crossed her arms. Where's her mother? That's not your concern. If I'm going to teach her, it is my concern. For a moment she thought he was going to tell her to leave. His jaw clenched, his eyes went cold. Then he exhaled slowly. Her mother left when Sophia was 2, he said quietly. Sent divorce papers from Paris and hasn't contacted us since. Sophia asks about her sometimes. I tell her what I can. Which is? That some people aren't built for this, for family, for responsibility. He looked away. For staying. The bitterness in his voice was so raw it made Lena's throat tight. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be. We're fine. But he wasn't fine. Neither was his daughter. Anyone could see that. The job is yours if you want it, Ethan said. 3 days a week, 2 hours per session, $50,000 a year. Lena's brain stuttered. That's too much. It's what you're worth. You don't know what I'm worth. I know you made my daughter smile for the first time in weeks. I know you're honest with her. And I know she already trusts you more than she trusted anyone else I hired. He met her eyes. So yes, that's what you're worth. Lena should have said no, should have walked away from this family and their complications and their money that felt like a trap. But she thought about Sophia's serious eyes and her small voice singing that lullaby. Thought about what it felt like to be 5 years old and invisible. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Relief flickered across his face, gone so fast she almost missed it. Good. Caroline will handle the contract and logistics. One condition. He raised an eyebrow. Which is? When I'm here, you're honest with her. About everything. I'm not going to undo my work by watching you lie to your daughter. I don't lie to her. You don't tell her the truth either. There's a difference. His expression went carefully blank. Anything else? No. Then we have a deal. He held out his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and gone too quickly. I'll see you Wednesday, he said, and walked back toward his office without another word. Lena stood in the hallway, surrounded by expensive art and the faint scent of whatever cleaner they used to keep everything perfect, and wondered what exactly she'd just agreed to. The scandal broke on a Tuesday. Lena was at the grocery store trying to decide if she could afford the good coffee when her phone started buzzing. Text after text. Calls from numbers she didn't recognize. She checked the news. Valete Tech founder's fiancé caught in affair with business rival. There was a photo. Ethan's fiancé, ex-fiancé now apparently, caught leaving a hotel with Marcus Chen. The same Marcus Chen whose birthday party had started all of this. Lena scrolled through the article. The engagement had been announced 6 months ago. High society wedding planned for next spring. Merger of 2 tech dynasties. Except now there was no engagement, no wedding, just photos and speculation and the kind of public humiliation that came with being rich and visible. Her phone rang. Caroline. Miss Brooks, I'm calling to inform you that this week's lessons are canceled. Is Sophia okay? She's fine. Mr. Vale is dealing with some personal matters and felt it would be best to postpone. Does she know about the news? A long pause. She's 5. That's not an answer. Mr. Vale will handle it. Will he? Caroline's voice went cool. I'll be in touch regarding rescheduling. She hung up. Lena stood in the produce aisle, surrounded by people buying vegetables and living normal lives, and felt an unexpected surge of anger. She shouldn't care. This wasn't her family, wasn't her problem. She was just the vocal coach. Except Sophia's voice kept echoing in her head. About my mommy coming back. About Daddy being happy. About any of it. Lena bought the expensive coffee and went home. The news got worse. By Wednesday, every outlet was covering it. Not just the affair, but the business implications. The canceled merger. The stock prices dropping. The speculation about whether Valetech could survive the fallout. By Thursday, there were think pieces about Ethan's judgment, his ability to lead, whether someone so publicly humiliated could maintain authority. By Friday, Lena couldn't take it anymore. She showed up at the penthouse unannounced. The doorman tried to stop her, but Caroline must have seen her on the security feed because the elevator opened before he could call anyone. Caroline met her upstairs, looking more frazzled than Lena had ever seen her. This isn't a good time, Caroline said. I'm not here for a lesson. I'm here to check on Sophia. She's fine. Let me see her. Miss Brooks, either you let me see her, or I'm going to stand here and make a scene. Your choice. Caroline's jaw tightened. Then she stepped aside. Sophia was in her room, sitting on her bed with the same book from before. She looked up when Lena entered. You came, she said quietly. Of course I came. Caroline said you weren't coming anymore. Caroline was wrong. Lena sat down next to her. How are you doing? Sophia shrugged. I heard Mrs. Kim talking to Caroline about Daddy and Miss Victoria, about how she left him. Lena's hands curled into fists. What did they say? That Daddy should have seen it coming, that Miss Victoria never really loved him, that our family is cursed. She looked at Lena with those 2 old eyes. What's cursed mean? It means people are being cruel and saying things they shouldn't. Is it true that Miss Victoria didn't love us? Us, not him. Us. I think, Lena said carefully, that some people don't know how to love in a way that's healthy. And that's not about you or your dad being cursed. It's about them. Will Daddy be okay? I think so, but it might take some time. Sophia nodded slowly. Then, can we still do lessons? Do you want to? Yes. Singing makes me feel less. She trailed off, searching for the word. Alone? Lena offered. Yeah. Then yes. We can still do lessons. Promise? Promise. Sophia leaned against her, just slightly, just enough. Lena put her arm around her and tried not to think about all the ways this family was breaking and how little she could do to stop it. Ethan appeared in the doorway. He looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed. There were dark circles under his eyes. Lena? Sophia pulled away. Miss Brooks came to see me. I can see that. His eyes met Lena's. Can we talk? Lena squeezed Sophia's shoulder gently. I'll be back, okay? Okay. She followed Ethan down the hall to his office. It was the first time she'd been in this room, all dark wood and leather and windows that overlooked a city that suddenly felt very far away. He closed the door. You shouldn't be here, he said. Sophia needed someone. She has Caroline. She has her grandmother. She has people who work for you and a grandmother who probably has opinions about all of this. Lena crossed her arms. She needed someone who wasn't going to lie to her. I'm not lying to her. No, you're just avoiding her, which is worse. His expression went dangerous. You don't know anything about my life. I know your daughter thinks she's cursed. I know she's scared you're going to fall apart. I know she's 5 years old and carrying around adult problems because the adults around her won't be honest. Get out. No. Excuse me? I said no. Lena stepped closer. You hired me to teach your daughter. Part of that job is making sure she's okay. And right now she's not okay because you're not okay and everyone's tiptoeing around it. This is none of your business. Then fire me. Tell me to leave and never come back. She met his eyes. But we both know you won't, because I'm the only person in this building who's not treating you like broken glass. They stared at each other. The air between them felt electric, dangerous. Then Ethan laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. "You're right," he said quietly. "You're absolutely right." He sank down into his desk chair and put his head in his hands. Lena stood there, unsure what to do. This wasn't the cold, controlled man from the party. This was someone cracking under pressure. "I don't know how to do this," he said finally. "How to be enough for her, how to protect her from all of this." "You can't protect her from everything." "I'm supposed to try." "You're supposed to be honest, to show her it's okay to feel things and work through them." Lena paused. "You're supposed to be human." He looked up at her. "And if I don't know how, then you figure it out, same as everyone else." For a long moment, he just looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. "Why did you come here today?" he asked. "Because someone needed to." "That's not your job." "Maybe not, but I did it anyway." Something in his expression shifted, softened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm about to tell you that you need to talk to your daughter." "I will. Today." "Lena?" "Today. Before she convinces herself you're falling apart." He exhaled slowly, then nodded. "Okay. Okay." She turned to leave. "Lena." She stopped. "The lessons. If you're still willing, I'd like them to continue." 3 days a week? "Whatever works for you." She looked back at him, at this man who had everything and nothing, who was drowning and too proud to ask for help. "Okay," she said, "but I have a new condition." "Which is, when I'm here, we're honest, all of us. No more pretending everything's fine when it's not." "That's going to be uncomfortable." "Good. Comfortable is overrated." He almost smiled. "Anything else?" "Yeah, eat something. You look terrible." This time he did smile. Small, tired, but real. "Yes, ma'am." Lena left before she could do something stupid like offer to stay. The lessons resumed the following Monday. Lena showed up with sheet music and a bag of cookies she'd stress-baked at midnight. Sophia was waiting in her room, already at the keyboard. "You brought cookies," she said. "I did. Want one?" "Caroline says I'm not supposed to have sugar before noon." "Good thing it's 12:01. Sophia grinned and took one. They worked through scales and breathing exercises. Sophia was good, better than good. She had natural talent and an ear that most people spent years developing. But more than that, she had emotion, real, raw feeling that came through in every note. "You're thinking about something sad," Lena said after one particularly poignant phrase. Sophia nodded. "I was thinking about my mom." "Do you want to talk about it?" "Not really, but singing helps." "Yeah, it does." They worked for another hour. When they finished, Sophia looked lighter, less weighted. "Same time Wednesday?" Lena asked. "Can we do tomorrow too?" "We're scheduled for 3 days a week." "I know, but I like when you're here. It feels less lonely." Lena's chest tightened. "Let me talk to your dad." She found Ethan in his office, staring at his computer screen like it had personally offended him. "Your daughter wants extra lessons," she said. He looked up. "Is that a problem?" "No. But I wanted to clear it with you first. Whatever she needs." He paused. "How is she?" "Better. She's processing, working through things." "Through music?" "Yeah." He nodded slowly. "My mother used to say music was the language of things we couldn't speak." "Your mother sounds wise." "She's terrifying, but yes, also wise." He leaned back in his chair. "She wants to meet you." "Why?" "Because Sophia won't stop talking about you, and because my mother doesn't trust anyone until she's properly vetted them. I'm the vocal coach, not family. To my mother, anyone who influences Sophia is family." He rubbed his temples. "Fair warning, she's intense." "More intense than you?" "Significantly." "I'll survive." His lips quirked. "We'll see." The meeting with Ethan's grandmother was scheduled for Thursday. Lena showed up in her most professional outfit and still felt underdressed. Eleanor Vale was 82, silver-haired, and had the kind of presence that made generals nervous. She sat in the penthouse living room like it was a throne room. So you're the waitress, she said when Lena entered. Former waitress, current vocal instructor. Eleanor studied her with eyes that missed nothing. Sit. Lena sat. My grandson says you're good with Sophia. We work well together. She's had 6 instructors this year. None of them lasted. I know. Why should you be different? Because I'm not trying to fix her. I'm trying to teach her. Eleanor's eyebrow raised. There's a difference? Always. A long pause, then Eleanor smiled. It was sharp and approving. You'll do, she said. For now. I'm honored. Don't be. I reserve the right to change my mind. She poured tea from a delicate china pot. Tell me about yourself. What would you like to know? Everything, where you're from, how you learned to sing, why you were working as a waitress when you have that voice. Lena took the offered teacup. The china was so thin she could see light through it. I grew up in foster care, she said. 11 different homes by the time I was 18. Music was the one constant. I had a teacher who believed in me, helped me apply to conservatories. But I didn't get in. Wrong background, wrong connections. So I worked and sang when I could and tried to survive. And my grandson found you. He humiliated me at a party, then paid me to sing. Eleanor laughed. Genuine, delighted. That sounds like Ethan. Terrible at people skills, excellent at recognizing talent. He's not as bad as he pretends to be. No, he's not. Eleanor set down her cup. He's scared of failing Sophia, of becoming like his father, of letting anyone close enough to hurt him again. That's not really my business. Perhaps not. But you care. I can see it. Eleanor leaned forward slightly. Be careful, Miss Brooks. My family is complicated. We break people who aren't prepared for that. I'm just the vocal coach. Are you? The question hung in the air between them. Lena left an hour later with Eleanor's approval and a feeling she'd just been given a warning she didn't fully understand. By the end of the month, Lena had settled into a routine. Monday, Wednesday, Friday with Sophia. 2 hours each session. Sometimes Ethan was there working in his office. Sometimes he wasn't. When he was there, they fell into a strange sort of rhythm. He'd appear in the doorway when the lesson ended, ask how it went. Lena would give him honest updates. Sometimes he'd stay for a few minutes, watch Sophia play. Sometimes he'd disappear back into his work. They didn't talk about the scandal, about Victoria, or the merger, or any of it, but Lena could see it wearing on him, in the way his shoulders stayed tense, in the lines around his eyes, in the moments when he thought no one was looking and let his mask slip. One Friday, Sophia fell asleep during their lesson, just curled up on the couch mid-song and drifted off. Lena found Ethan in his office. She's asleep, Lena said quietly. He looked up. Already? She's exhausted. Has she been sleeping? She says she is. That's not an answer. He sighed. She's been having nightmares, waking up several times a night. About what? She won't tell me. Lena leaned against the doorframe. Have you asked? Of course I've asked. No, have you really asked? Sat down with her, no distractions, and actually asked? His jaw tightened. I don't have time for make time. You don't understand. I understand that your daughter is scared, and you're so busy managing the fallout from your public humiliation that you're missing it. The words came out harsher than she meant. Ethan's expression went cold. Get out. Ethan, I said get out. Lena left, grabbed her bag and walked to the elevator with her heart pounding. She'd gone too far, crossed a line. He was going to fire her, and she deserved it. But when she got to the lobby, Caroline was waiting. Mr. Vale asked me to give you this. She handed Lena an envelope. Inside was a check, for the month's salary plus a bonus. And a note. In Ethan's sharp handwriting, You're right, thank you. Lena stood in that expensive lobby, surrounded by marble and money, and realized she was in way over her head. The nightmares got worse before they got better. Lena heard about them secondhand through Caroline, who mentioned in passing that Sophia had woken up screaming 3 times the previous night, that Ethan had stayed up with her until dawn, that neither of them were sleeping. When Lena arrived for their Monday lesson, Sophia looked hollow. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back messily. She was wearing the same dress from Friday. Did you sleep at all? Lena asked gently. Sophia shook her head. Want to talk about it? The dreams are about Mommy and Miss Victoria and everyone leaving. Her voice was so small. In the dream, Daddy leaves too, and I'm alone in the big apartment and no one comes back. Lena's throat tightened. She knelt down to Sophia's eye level. Your dad's not going anywhere. How do you know? Because I've seen the way he looks at you, like you're the most important thing in his whole world. Then why is he always working? It was a fair question, one Lena didn't have a good answer for. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, she said finally. They think if they work hard enough, if they're successful enough, that'll fix everything. But it doesn't. It just makes them more tired. Is Daddy tired? Very. Sophia was quiet for a moment, then, can we sing something happy today? I don't want to be sad anymore. They spent the lesson working on a silly French children's song Eleanor had taught Sophia years ago. Something about a dancing rabbit and a sleepy fox. Sophia giggled through the verses, stumbling over the pronunciation, and for 2 hours she looked like a normal 5-year-old. When the lesson ended, Ethan wasn't in his office. Caroline said he'd gone to the Vailtech building for an emergency board meeting. How long has he been gone? Lena asked. Since 6 this morning? It was almost 3 in the afternoon. Lena looked at Sophia, who'd gone quiet again, staring out the window at the city below. Does he do this often? Lena asked Caroline quietly. More and more lately. The board's concerned about the merger collapse. There's talk of a vote of no confidence. They'd remove him? They're considering it. Lena felt anger spike in her chest. The man was drowning, and everyone around him just kept piling on weight. She stayed an extra hour that day, played games with Sophia, read her 2 chapters of The Secret Garden. Made her laugh with terrible impressions of the characters. When Ethan finally came home at 7, Sophia was asleep on the couch, curled up against Lena's side. He stopped in the doorway. Something unreadable crossed his face. I didn't expect you to still be here, he said quietly. She needed someone. That's not your job. So you keep saying. Lena carefully extracted herself from Sophia's grip and stood. How was the meeting? Terrible. He loosened his tie. They want me to step down temporarily. Let someone else handle operations while I deal with personal matters. Are you going to? No. His voice was hard. This is my company. I built it from nothing. I'm not walking away because my ex-fiancé decided to sleep with my competitor. Even if it's destroying you? He looked at her sharply. I'm fine. You're not. And your daughter knows it. Lena, she had nightmares about you leaving, about being abandoned again. Lena picked up her bag. You can't keep doing this, working yourself to death while she falls apart. What would you have me do? Let the board dismantle everything I've worked for. I'd have you be a father first and a CEO second. The words hung between them like a challenge. Ethan's expression went carefully blank. You don't understand what's at stake. No, I don't, because I've never had anything to lose. She moved toward the elevator. But I know what it feels like to be a kid who's invisible to the one person who should see them, and I know that money and success don't mean anything if you're alone. She left before he could respond. The next morning, Caroline called. Mr. Vale would like to meet with you this afternoon, 2 o'clock. Is this about yesterday? He didn't say, but he seemed determined. Lena showed up at 2 wearing jeans and a sweater because she was done pretending this was a formal arrangement. If he was going to fire her, he could do it while she was comfortable. Ethan was in his office, standing by the window. He'd changed clothes since yesterday, but still looked exhausted. You wanted to see me? Lena said. He turned, looked at her for a long moment. I have a proposition. Another one? Hear me out. He moved to his desk, picked up a folder. The board wants me to step back, to show I'm stable, committed to family values. You are committed. They don't see it that way. They see a man publicly humiliated by his fiancée, unstable, a liability. He opened the folder. But if I were married, if I had a stable family image, they'd back off. Lena's stomach dropped. What are you saying? I'm saying I need a wife, temporarily, a year, maybe 2, long enough to stabilize things. You want me to marry you? Contractually. It would be a business arrangement. She laughed. She couldn't help it. Are you insane? Probably. He didn't smile. But I'm also desperate. The board meets in 3 weeks to vote. If I show up married, with a stable home life, they'll have no grounds to remove me. Get someone else. Someone from your world. I don't trust anyone from my world. They'd leverage it, use it against me. He paused. But you're different. You don't want anything from me except to help Sophia. So you're using that against me? No, I'm offering you a trade. He slid a paper across the desk. 1-year contract marriage. You continue teaching Sophia. You attend public events as my wife. You help maintain the image of stability. And in return, your remaining student debt paid off. $100,000 to restart your singing career. Training with the best vocal coaches in the world. Connections to opera houses in New York, Milan, Vienna. He met her eyes. Everything you need to become what you should have been. Lena stared at the paper, at the numbers that would change her life. This is insane, she said. Yes. Your grandmother will see through it immediately. Probably, but she'll support it anyway. She wants Sophia happy. What about Sophia? What do we tell her? The truth. That we're helping each other. That sometimes family looks different than people expect. Lena's hands were shaking. I need to think about it. You have until Friday. That's when I need an answer. She left without taking the contract. For 3 days, Lena barely slept. She kept pulling out the contract, reading through the terms. It was straightforward, clinical. A business transaction dressed up as a marriage. 1 year, 52 weeks, 365 days of pretending to be someone she wasn't. But the money, the opportunities, the chance to actually pursue music without drowning in debt. She called Maria. He wants you to what? Maria's voice was shrill through the phone. Marry him, contractually, for a year. That's the most billionaire thing I've ever heard. I know. Are you actually considering it? Lena was quiet. Oh my God, you are. Maria paused. Lena, this is crazy. I know that too. But what if it's my only shot? What if this is the only way I ever get to really sing? To be more than someone pouring coffee and wondering what if? And what happens when the year is up? When you've gotten used to the money and the penthouse and playing house with a man who thinks everything can be solved with a contract? Then I walk away, like the contract says. You really think it'll be that simple? Lena didn't answer because she didn't know. On Friday morning, she showed up at the penthouse with her decision. Ethan was in his office. He stood when she entered. Well? He asked. I have conditions. Something like relief flickered across his face. Name them. 1. Sophia knows the truth, all of it. We don't lie to her about what this is. Agreed. 2. I keep my own apartment. I'll stay here during the week for appearances, but I need somewhere that's mine. Done. 3. When the year is up, we're done. No extensions, no renegotiating. I walk away free and clear. He hesitated on that one, just for a second. Agreed. And 4. She looked him directly in the eyes. You actually try. With Sophia. No more 16-hour days, no more choosing work over her. You be the father she deserves. His jaw tightened. That's not really part of the business arrangement. It is now. Take it or leave it. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he held out his hand. Deal. She shook it. His hand was warm, his grip firm. When do we start? She asked. Tomorrow. I've arranged for you to meet with a stylist. We'll need photos for the announcement. That fast? The board meeting is in 2 weeks. We need to control the narrative before they do. Lena felt the ground shift under her feet. This was happening, actually happening. Okay, she said. Tomorrow. He pulled out a small box from his desk drawer. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond on a platinum band. It was my grandmother's, he said, from her first marriage, before my grandfather. She said you should have something real. Eleanor knows? I told her this morning. She laughed for 5 minutes straight. Then she said you were either very brave or very stupid. What do you think? I think you're both. He held out the ring. May I? She extended her hand. It was shaking slightly. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Eleanor had probably measured her teacup grip or something equally devious. How does it feel? He asked. Like I just signed my life away. You signed it for a year, there's a difference. Is there? He didn't answer. The announcement went out Monday morning, a simple press release. Ethan Vale, CEO of Valetech Industries, was pleased to announce his marriage to Lena Brooks, acclaimed soprano. The ceremony had been private, intimate. They were looking forward to building a life together. By noon, Lena's phone had exploded. Calls from reporters, emails from people she hadn't spoken to in years, text messages from Maria that were mostly capitalized swearing. The photos ran in every major outlet. Lena and Ethan on the penthouse balcony, her hand in his, the city spread out behind them. She was wearing a dress the stylist had picked. He was in a suit. They both looked happy. It was completely fake. The comments online were vicious. Half the internet thought she was a gold digger. The other half thought Ethan was rebounding too fast. Everyone had an opinion about a relationship they knew nothing about. Don't read the comments, Ethan said that evening. They were having dinner with Sophia, their first meal as a family. Too late. They don't know you. They know enough. Waitress marries billionaire. It's a fairy tale. Except I'm not Cinderella and you're not Prince Charming. No, we're two people helping each other. He glanced at Sophia, who was pushing pasta around her plate. Right? Sophia looked up. Are you going to leave too? The question was directed at Lena. No, Lena said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. Everyone says that. I know, but I mean it. How do I know you mean it? Lena thought about it. Then she pulled off Eleanor's ring and held it out to Sophia. Hold on to this. When I break my promise, you can keep it. But if I keep my promise, I want it back in exactly 1 year. Deal? Sophia took the ring carefully, studied it. Then she looked at Lena with those two wise eyes. Okay, deal. She put the ring on her own finger. It was way too big, so she curled her hand into a fist to keep it from sliding off. Ethan was staring at Lena like she'd done something incomprehensible. What? Lena asked. That ring is worth more than most people's cars. Then I better keep my promise. Something shifted in his expression, softened. Yeah, you better. The first week of the marriage was strange. Lena moved some of her things into the penthouse guest room, kept her apartment like she'd demanded, learned the rhythms of a house that wasn't hers. Mornings were Ethan's domain. He was up by 5, working by 6, coffee in hand, phone to his ear, always moving. Afternoons belonged to Sophia, lessons and homework, and the kind of gentle routine that seemed to calm her. Evenings were awkward, the three of them eating dinner together, making conversation that felt rehearsed. Sophia watching them both carefully, like she was waiting for the mask to slip. Tell me something real, Sophia said one night. They were in the living room, Ethan reading contracts, Lena working on sheet music, Sophia coloring. What do you mean? Ethan asked. Something true about you and Miss Lena. She looked up. You said this was real, so tell me something real. Ethan and Lena exchanged glances. I'm terrified, Lena said finally. Every day. That I'm going to mess this up, that I'm not good enough to be here. Me too, Ethan said quietly. That I'm failing you, that I don't know how to be what you need. Sophia considered this, then nodded. Okay, that's real. She went back to coloring. Ethan met Lena's eyes across the room. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition that they were both in over their heads. The board meeting arrived too fast. Ethan wore his best suit. Lena wore the dress the stylist insisted made her look like serious wife material. They rode to the Valetech building in silence. You don't have to do this, Ethan said in the elevator. You can wait outside. I'm your wife. I should be there. It's just for show. Then let me show. The boardroom was all glass and steel and men in expensive suits. They stood when Lena entered, shook her hand, smiled with teeth that didn't reach their eyes. She sat in the chair beside Ethan and tried not to feel like she was drowning. The meeting started. Financial reports. Quarterly projections. The kind of business speak that made her head hurt. Then Marcus Chen's father stood up. We need to address the elephant in the room, he said. The scandal, the merger collapse, the question of leadership stability. I'm married now, Ethan said calmly. My personal life is stable. Married for 3 weeks, to a woman no one had heard of a month ago. The older Chen smiled coldly. Forgive me if that doesn't inspire confidence. My relationship with my wife is none of the board's business. It is when it affects stock prices. Lena felt every eye in the room turn to her, assessing, judging. She stood. With all due respect, Mr. Chen, my marriage is real. Not a PR stunt, not damage control. She looked around the room. I understand you have concerns, but Ethan Vale built this company from nothing. He's brilliant, driven, and yes, he's had personal setbacks, but removing him now would be the worst decision you could make. And you're qualified to make that assessment? Another board member, younger, smug. I'm qualified to know that stability isn't about optics. It's about commitment. And Ethan's committed to this company, to his daughter, to building something that lasts. She paused. Fire him if you want, but you'll regret it. Silence. Then Eleanor spoke from the far end of the table. Lena hadn't even realized she was there. The girl's right. My grandson is many things, but he's not a quitter, and his marriage is legitimate. I've vetted her personally. Coming from Eleanor, that apparently carried weight. The vote was called. It was close. Too close. But Ethan stayed. In the car afterward, he was quiet. Thank you, he said finally. For what? For standing up for me. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. That's what family does. He looked at her, really looked at her. Is that what we are? For the next year? Yes. Something flickered in his expression. Disappointment, maybe, but it was gone before she could name it. That night, a storm rolled in. The kind that made the penthouse windows rattle and the lights flicker. Lena was in her room when she heard crying. Sophia. She found her in the hallway, clutching Eleanor's ring, sobbing. Hey, hey, what's wrong? The thunder, it's too loud, and Daddy's not here. Ethan was still at the office. Of course he was. Lena scooped Sophia up, carried her back to bed. Want me to stay? Yes? Lena climbed into bed beside her. Sophia curled against her side, small and shaking. Sing something, Sophia whispered. So Lena sang. The lullaby from the gala, soft and gentle and real. Sophia's breathing evened out. Her grip on the ring loosened. And when Ethan came home at midnight and found them like that, Lena asleep with his daughter in her arms, he stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching. Something in his chest cracked open. He'd built walls so high, he forgot what it felt like to let someone in. Forgot what warmth looked like, what home felt like. But here it was, in a guest room, with a woman he barely knew and a daughter who was finally sleeping through the night. He pulled out his phone, canceled his morning meetings, all of them. Then he went to his room and tried to remember the last time he'd put family first. The next morning, Sophia woke to find her father making pancakes. You're here, she said, stunned. I'm here. He flipped a pancake badly. It landed half on the counter. I'm also terrible at this. You're here, she said again, and launched herself at him. He caught her, held her tight, and over her head met Lena's eyes as she walked into the kitchen. Thank you, he mouthed. Lena nodded, and for the first time since this whole arrangement started, it felt like maybe they were building something real, even if none of them were ready to admit it yet. The weeks that followed developed their own rhythm. Ethan actually came home for dinner, most nights anyway. He'd clear his schedule by 6, walk through the door with his tie already loosened, and find Lena and Sophia in the kitchen attempting some recipe that usually ended in laughter and takeout. You're burning it, Lena said one evening, watching him try to saute vegetables. I'm not burning it. I'm caramelizing. It's smoking. That's how you know it's working. Sophia giggled from her perch on the counter. Daddy, it's black. He looked down. The vegetables were, in fact, black. Takeout? He suggested. Takeout, Lena agreed. They ordered Thai food and ate on the balcony while the sun set over the city. Sophia talked about her day, about the friend she'd made at her music class, about the book she was reading. Ethan listened, actually listened, asked questions, smiled. Lena watched him transform from CEO to father, and felt something dangerous unfold in her chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to care. But every time he laughed at one of Sophia's terrible jokes, Every time he helped with homework, even though he was exhausted, every time he looked at Lena like she was more than just a contract, she felt the walls she'd built start to crack. It terrified her. "You're staring," Ethan said quietly. Sophia had gone inside to get dessert. "Sorry." "Don't be." He was looking at her now. "I stare too. When you're singing with Sophia, when you think no one's watching." Her heart stuttered. "Ethan, I know, this is temporary, business arrangement. I know." He looked away. "But it's getting harder to remember that." Before Lena could respond, Sophia burst back out with ice cream. The moment passed. But it stayed with Lena, haunted her through the quiet hours when she couldn't sleep, when she'd wander the penthouse halls and wonder what she'd gotten herself into. The problem wasn't the arrangement, it was that somewhere along the way, it had stopped feeling like one. Then Victoria showed up. She appeared at the penthouse on a Tuesday afternoon. Lena answered the door because Caroline was out and Ethan was in a conference call. Victoria was everything Lena wasn't: tall, polished, the kind of beautiful that came from expensive maintenance. She wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Lena's monthly salary. "You must be the replacement," Victoria said, looking Lena up and down. "I'm his wife. Can I help you?" "I need to speak with Ethan. He's in a meeting. I'll wait." Victoria walked past her like she owned the place. Lena's hands curled into fists. "You can't just—" "I lived here for 2 years. I can do whatever I want." Sophia appeared in the hallway. Froze when she saw Victoria. "Hello, Sophia," Victoria said. Her smile was cold. "Don't you look sweet?" Sophia didn't respond, just pressed herself against the wall. Lena stepped between them. "You need to leave." "Or what? You'll call security? I'm on the approved list." "Not anymore," Ethan's voice came from behind them. He stood in his office doorway, his expression carved from ice. "You lost that privilege when you decided to sleep with Marcus Chen." Victoria's smile didn't falter. "I came to talk about the merger, about fixing what we broke." "There's nothing to fix. We're done." "Are we? Or are you just playing house with the help?" Her eyes cut to Lena. "How long do you think this will last? A month? 2? He gets bored easily." "Get out," Lena said quietly. "Excuse me? You heard me. Get out of this house, away from this family. You don't get to walk back in and pretend you have a right to any of this." Victoria laughed. "You think you're different? You think you matter to him? You're a Band-Aid, a PR move. The second this little scandal dies down, he'll toss you aside just like—" "Enough." Ethan moved forward. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I call actual security and have you removed." "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." For a moment, Victoria's mask slipped. Lena saw fury underneath, real, burning rage. Then she smiled again. "This isn't over." She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Sophia was shaking. Lena knelt down beside her. "You okay?" "I don't like her." "Me neither." "She's mean." "Yeah, she is." Lena pulled her into a hug. "But she's gone now." Sophia held on tight. Over her head, Lena met Ethan's eyes. He looked shaken, raw. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being here. For being you." He ran a hand through his hair. "I should have changed the security codes." "Yeah, you should have." That night, after Sophia was asleep, Lena found Ethan on the balcony. He was holding a glass of scotch he hadn't touched. "You okay?" she asked. "I should have protected her. From Victoria. From all of this." "You did. You told her to leave." "I should have done it sooner. Should have seen what Victoria was. What she'd do to Sophia." Lena leaned against the railing beside him. "You can't protect her from everything. People are going to be cruel. They're going to judge her because of who you are, who her mother was. All you can do is teach her that their cruelty says more about them than it does about her." "You sound like you're speaking from experience." "Foster care teaches you a lot about cruelty." She looked out at the city. "But it also teaches you resilience, how to survive people who don't see your worth." He turned to look at her. "I see it." "What?" "Your worth." His voice was rough. In case that wasn't clear, her heart was hammering. "Ethan, I know, contract, arrangement, temporary." He He set down the glass. But I need you to know, you're not a Band-Aid, you're not a PR move, you're… What? He shook his head. More than I expected, more than I deserve. You deserve more than you think you do. They stood there in the dark, the city glittering below them, and Lena felt the last of her walls crack. She was falling for him. For this broken man with his broken family and his desperate attempt to hold everything together. It was the worst idea she'd ever had. And she couldn't seem to stop. The shift happened slowly, then all at once. One morning, Lena woke up in the guest room and realized she'd started thinking of the penthouse as home. Started looking forward to dinner with Ethan and Sophia. Started caring about board meetings and stock prices and whether Ethan's latest presentation went well. She was in too deep. Maria noticed first. They met for coffee on one of Lena's rare afternoons off. Maria took one look at her and shook her head. You're in love with him. Lena nearly choked on her latte. I'm not. Lena, I've known you for 6 years. I can tell when you're lying. It's a contract. It's temporary. Your feelings aren't. Maria leaned forward. Does he know? There's nothing to know. That's not an answer. Lena stared into her coffee. It doesn't matter what I feel. In 8 months this ends. I walk away. That was the deal. And you think you can just turn it off? Walk away from him and Sophia like none of it mattered? I have to. Why? Because that's the agreement. Because he doesn't feel the same way. Because I'm not actually part of this family. I'm just playing pretend. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then, have you asked him how he feels? I don't need to. I know what this is. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like a man who can't stop staring at his wife like she hung the moon, contract or not. Lena wanted to believe it. Wanted to believe those moments on the balcony meant something real. But she'd spent her whole life being temporary, being the girl people kept around until something better came along. Why would this be any different? The Opera Foundation of New York reached out 3 weeks later. One of their sopranos had fallen ill. They needed a replacement for their winter gala. Would Lena be interested? It was the break she'd been training for, the opportunity that could launch her actual career. She should have been thrilled. Instead, she felt sick. You have to do it, Ethan said when she told him. They were in his office. Sophia was at a play date with Eleanor. It's the same night as your company anniversary gala. So, this is your career, your dream. I'm supposed to be there. As your wife. The board will survive one night without you. He leaned back in his chair. This is what you wanted, isn't it? What the contract was for, to restart your singing career. Yes, but no buts, you're doing it. His voice was firm. I'll have Caroline work out the details. She studied his face. He looked pleased, proud even. But there was something else underneath, something that looked like resignation. Ethan, this is good, Lena. This is you building something that's yours, independent of me, of this arrangement. He stood, signaling the conversation was over. You should be celebrating. She left his office feeling hollow. The next few weeks were a blur of rehearsals. The Opera Foundation's conductor was demanding, brilliant, and had no patience for mistakes. Lena threw herself into the work, practiced until her voice was raw, until she could hit every note perfectly, every phrase exactly right. It should have felt like coming home. Instead, it felt like running away. She saw less of Ethan. He was busy with the anniversary gala preparations, and she was consumed with rehearsals. They'd pass each other in the penthouse like ships in the night, a touch on the shoulder, a tired smile. Nothing more. Sophia noticed. Are you and Daddy fighting? She asked one afternoon during their lesson. No, baby. We're just busy. That's what grown-ups say when they're fighting but don't want to tell kids. Lena set down her sheet music. We're not fighting, I promise. We're just figuring things out. Figuring what out? How to be in the same room without wanting things we can't have, Lena thought. How to remember this is temporary when it feels so permanent. How to balance everything, she said instead. Work and family. It's hard sometimes. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled Eleanor's ring from her pocket. She'd been carrying it everywhere. Do I have to give this back soon? She asked quietly. Not yet. We still have 8 months. And then you leave. It wasn't a question. Lena's throat tightened. That was the agreement. But what if I don't want you to? Sophia, what if I want you to stay? What if Daddy wants you to stay? Your dad and we have an arrangement. It's complicated. You always say that when you don't want to tell me the truth. Sophia looked at her with those two wise eyes. Do you love him? The question hung in the air between them. Lena could lie, should lie, but she'd promised Sophia honesty. Yes, she said quietly, but sometimes love isn't enough. Why not? Because your dad and I want different things. We have different lives. No, you don't. You have the same life, right here. If only it were that simple. The scandal hit the tabloids on a Tuesday. Lena was at rehearsal when her phone started blowing up. Text after text, calls from numbers she didn't recognize. She checked the news during break. Valette marriage, a sham, contract leaked, wife's real role revealed. Her hands went numb. Someone had leaked the contract. The real one. Every clause, every term, every clinical detail of their arrangement laid bare for the world to see. The comments were vicious. She was a gold digger, a fraud, a social climber who'd manipulated her way into a billionaire's life. Ethan called. Don't read anything, he said immediately. It's going to be ugly. Too late. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. Who did this? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Does Sophia know? Not yet. I'm on my way home now. He paused. Lena, I'm sorry. I should have protected the contract better. Should have. This isn't your fault, isn't it? His laugh was bitter. Everything I touch turns to ashes lately. That's not true. My company's stock dropped 15 points in the last hour. The board's calling an emergency meeting, and my wife... He stopped. You're getting destroyed online for agreeing to help me. I knew what I was signing up for. Did you? Did you know it would be this bad? She didn't answer. Come home, he said quietly. Please, we'll figure this out together. She wanted to run back to the penthouse and hide from the world, but she'd spent her whole life running. I have rehearsal, she said. I'll be home tonight. She hung up before he could argue. The rehearsal was a disaster. She couldn't focus, missed cues, forgot lyrics she'd known for weeks. The conductor finally stopped them. Miss Brooks, whatever's happening in your personal life, leave it outside this hall. We have a performance in 3 days. I'm sorry, I don't need apologies. I need perfection. He tapped his baton against the stand. From the top. Lena made it through the rest of rehearsal on autopilot. When it ended, she sat alone in the empty hall and let herself break. She'd been so stupid, thinking this could work, thinking she could play house with a billionaire and walk away unscathed. The truth was messier, more complicated. She loved Ethan, loved Sophia, loved the life they'd built together, even if it was based on a lie. And now that lie was exposed for everyone to see. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You were always going to get hurt. Should have stayed in your lane. Then another. How much did he pay you to play wife? Was it worth your dignity? And another. Gold-digging whore. She turned off her phone. When she finally made it back to the penthouse, it was past 11. The lights were still on. Ethan was in the living room, staring at his laptop. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. You're home, he said. I'm home. How was rehearsal? Terrible. She set down her bag. How bad is it? Bad. The board's considering the contract breach of ethics. They want me to dissolve the marriage publicly, issue a statement. Okay? He looked up sharply. Okay? That was always the plan, right? This was temporary. The contract's out there now. No point pretending. Lena, it's fine, Ethan, really. She was so tired of pretending, tired of hoping. I'll move my things out this week. We can coordinate schedules so... No. What? No, you're not leaving. He stood. I don't care what the board says. I don't care what the media thinks. You're not leaving. This is what they want, what we agreed to. I don't care about the agreement anymore. He moved toward her. Do you want to leave? Her throat was tight. Does it matter? It's the only thing that matters. Ethan, we can't. Answer the question. Do you want to leave? The truth sat on her tongue like poison, like salvation. No, she whispered. I don't want to leave. I want to stay. I want this to be real. Something in his expression cracked. Then stay. It's not that simple. It is that simple. Stay. We'll figure out the rest. Your board will force you out. Your company can burn for all I care. He was close now. Close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the desperation. I spent my whole life building that company. Thought it was the only thing that mattered, but none of it means anything if I lose you. You don't mean that. I do. His hands found hers. I love you, Lena. Not because of a contract, not because you're good with Sophia, because you're you, because you make me want to be better, because when I come home, you're what I look forward to. Tears were streaming down her face. This is a terrible idea. I know. The scandal will get worse. Probably. Your board will never accept this. Then I'll find a new board. He cupped her face. Stay, please. She should say no. Should protect herself. Should walk away before this destroyed them both. But she'd been running her whole life. Maybe it was time to stand still. Okay, she breathed. I'll stay. He kissed her then, soft and desperate and real. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Lena let herself believe it might actually work. The next morning, they woke to find Victoria's interview splashed across every news outlet. She'd done a full expose, talked about Ethan's controlling nature, his obsession with appearances, how the marriage to Lena was just another business move, a calculated play to save his reputation. She painted Lena as a victim, poor, desperate, manipulated by a man who saw people as assets. The worst part was some of it was true. She's trying to destroy you, Lena said, reading the article on her phone. Ethan was making coffee, his movements sharp with anger. She's trying to destroy both of us. Why? What does she gain from this? Revenge, control. He poured 2 cups. Victoria doesn't like losing, and when she lost me to the scandal, lost the merger, she needed someone to blame. So she's blaming us. Yes. He handed her a cup. The board's meeting this afternoon. They're going to ask for my resignation. You can't let them. I might not have a choice. Then fight. Lena set down the coffee. You taught me that. To fight for what matters. So fight. What if I lose? Then we lose together. She took his hand. But we don't give up. Not now. Not when we've come this far. He pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. How are you so brave? I'm not. I'm terrified. You don't show it. Neither do you. They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other, while the world tried to tear them apart. Sophia found them like that. Are we okay? She asked quietly from the doorway. Ethan and Lena pulled apart. Lena knelt down to Sophia's level. Come here, baby. Sophia ran to them. They wrapped her in their arms. We're going to be okay, Lena said. All of us. Together. Promise? Lena looked at Ethan. He nodded. Promise. The board meeting was brutal. Lena insisted on attending. The board members were merciless. They had copies of the contract, copies of Victoria's interview, evidence of stock drops and lost partnerships. This marriage is a liability, Marcus Chen's father said. It's damaging our reputation. Our investors are pulling out. Then let them pull out, Ethan said calmly. I'm not ending my marriage to appease people who were never loyal to begin with. You built this company on loyalty. No. I built it on vision, on innovation, and yes, on ruthlessness when necessary. He stood. But I'm done sacrificing my personal life for business. I'm done choosing work over family. If you want my resignation, you can have it, but you're not getting my wife. Silence. Eleanor spoke from the corner where she'd been watching silently. My grandson is right. We've let business consume us for too long. It's time we remember what actually matters. She stood. I moved to table the resignation discussion, focus instead on weathering this storm as a united front. With all due respect, Mrs. Vale, one of the younger members started. No. Eleanor's voice could cut glass. I've been on this board for 40 years. I've seen companies rise and fall. And I can tell you that the ones that survive are the ones that value people over profit, family over stock prices. She looked around the room. Vote to remove my grandson if you want, but I'll spend every dollar I have making sure this company crumbles without him. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The vote was called. Ethan survived. Barely. By 3 votes. But he survived. The car afterward, Lena squeezed his hand. You did it. We did it. He looked exhausted. Relieved. Thank you for being there. Always. But that night, alone in her room, Lena read the news coverage and felt dread settle in her chest. The investigation into the leak had dead-ended. Whoever had released the contract had covered their tracks well. But Lena had a sinking suspicion she knew exactly who was behind it. And she was right. The proof came 2 days later. An email from an anonymous account. Security footage from Vailtech servers. Time-stamped. Clear as day. Victoria hadn't leaked the contract. Marcus Chen had. With Victoria's help, yes. But the execution had been his. The timing, the media coordination, the strategic destruction of Ethan's reputation. It was revenge. For the birthday party. For Ethan stealing the spotlight. For everything. Lena showed Ethan the footage. He went very still. He's been planning this the whole time, Ethan said quietly, since the engagement fell apart. Maybe before. What are you going to do? Destroy him. His voice was ice. Professionally, legally, completely. Ethan, he came after you, after my family, after everything I've built. He looked at her. I won't let that stand. And if it makes things worse, it can't get much worse. But he was wrong. Because that night, Lena received a call from the Opera Foundation. They were pulling her from the gala. We can't afford the controversy, the director said. With the scandal, the leaked contract, the media attention, it's too much of a risk. I've been rehearsing for weeks. I'm sorry, Miss Brooks. The decision is final. They hung up. Lena sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone, feeling something inside her break. This was the dream. The opportunity she'd sacrificed everything for. And it was gone. Because she'd dared to love someone. Because she'd chosen family over career. Because the world couldn't accept that maybe, just maybe, her story with Ethan was real. She found Ethan in his office, told him what happened. He looked stricken. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. It is. Everything that's happening to you is because of me. No, it's because the world is cruel to women who dare to want more than they're supposed to have. She sank into a chair. I'm so tired, Ethan. Tired of fighting, tired of proving myself, tired of being treated like I'm not enough. He knelt in front of her, took her hands. You are more than enough. You are extraordinary. Then why does it feel like I'm losing everything? Because sometimes the world breaks us before it lets us win. He brushed a tear from her cheek. But you don't have to face it alone. Not anymore. She wanted to believe him, but that night, lying in bed, all she could think about was the contract, the arrangement, the fact that in 6 months this would all be over anyway. Maybe it would be easier to leave now, before she got hurt worse, before she lost more than she already had. The thought terrified her, because somewhere along the way, this temporary family had become her whole world, and she had no idea how to protect it. Lena left at dawn. She didn't plan it, didn't think about it too hard because thinking would have stopped her. She just packed a bag with the essentials, left Eleanor's ring on the kitchen counter with a note that said, I'm sorry, and walked out of the penthouse while the city was still dark. Her hands shook the entire elevator ride down. The doorman looked surprised to see her leaving so early, luggage in hand, but he didn't ask questions. Rich people paid him not to ask questions. She made it 3 blocks before she had to stop, leaned against a building and tried to breathe through the panic clawing at her chest. This was the right choice. It had to be. She was protecting them, protecting Sophia from more headlines about the fake family, protecting Ethan from a wife who was destroying his reputation, protecting herself from the inevitable heartbreak when the contract ended and she had to leave anyway. Better to leave now. On her own terms. Before she lost more than her career. Before she lost herself completely. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. She turned it off. Maria's apartment was in Brooklyn. A 4th-floor walk-up that smelled like coffee and old books. Maria opened the door in her bathrobe, took one look at Lena's face and pulled her inside. What happened? I left. Left what? The penthouse? All of it. Ethan, Sophia, the whole arrangement. Lena sank onto the couch. I can't do this anymore. Okay, back up. Start from the beginning. So Lena told her about the Opera Foundation pulling her from the gala, about Marcus Chen and the leaked contract, about feeling like she was drowning and pulling everyone else down with her. Maria listened quietly. Then she got up, made coffee, and sat back down. You're running, she said finally. I'm protecting them. No, you're running. Same thing you always do when things get hard. That's not fair. Isn't it? How many foster homes did you run from? How many voice teachers did you quit on when they pushed too hard? How many times have you sabotaged something good because you were scared it wouldn't last? Lena's chest tightened. This is different. How? Because I'm actually hurting them. My presence is destroying Ethan's company, ruining Sophia's life, making everything worse. Or maybe you're just scared that they actually love you and you don't know how to handle being loved. The words hit like a physical blow. That's not, Lena started. You told me once that the hardest part of foster care wasn't the moving. It was the moments right before, when you'd start to feel safe, when you'd start to believe maybe this family would keep you, and then they didn't. Maria leaned forward. You're doing it again, leaving before they can leave you. They will leave, eventually. The contract ends in 6 months. Then fight for more than 6 months. Fight for forever. What if I lose? What if you win? Lena didn't have an answer for that. She stayed at Maria's for 2 days, turned off her phone, ignored the knocking that came on the second evening. Ethan, probably, or Caroline, or someone sent to drag her back. Maria didn't answer the door. On the third morning, Lena woke to find Eleanor Vale sitting in Maria's kitchen, drinking coffee like she owned the place. How did you get in here? Lena asked. Your friend has excellent taste in coffee, Brazilian beans, if I'm not mistaken. Maria appeared in the doorway, looking sheepish. She was very persuasive. I'm 82 years old. People assume I'm harmless. Eleanor set down her cup. Sit, child. We need to talk. Lena sat. Eleanor studied her for a long moment. Then, my husband left me 3 times before we finally made it work. What? The first time I was too young, too scared of what loving him meant. So I ran, married someone safe, someone boring, spent 5 years being miserable before I realized safe isn't the same as happy. Mrs. Vale. The second time, he was the one who ran. Got scared when I got pregnant with Ethan's father. Thought he couldn't be a father, couldn't handle the responsibility. Disappeared for 6 months. What did you do? Hunted him down. Told him he was being an idiot. That fear was normal, but running was cowardice. She smiled slightly. He came back. We had 43 good years together before he died. And the third time? That was me again. After his first heart attack, I convinced myself I was protecting him by leaving. That the stress of our relationship was killing him. She poured more coffee. Took our son showing up and telling me I was being selfish for me to realize the truth. Which was? That love isn't about protection. It's about presence. About showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Lena's eyes were burning. I'm destroying Ethan's life. No. Marcus Chen and Victoria are trying to destroy Ethan's life. You're just an easy target. Eleanor leaned forward. But here's what they didn't count on. You're not easy. You're stubborn and brave and exactly what my grandson needs. I'm a waitress who got lucky. You're a woman who survived foster care, worked 3 jobs to pay for voice lessons, and built a life from nothing. You're a woman who looked at my impossible granddaughter and saw potential instead of problems. You're a woman who stood up to a boardroom full of vultures and defended a man you barely knew. Eleanor's eyes were fierce. You are not lucky, child. You are extraordinary. And it's time you started believing it. The tears came then, hot and messy, and everything Lena had been holding back for days. Eleanor moved around the table and pulled her into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and strength. Go home, she said softly, to your family. They need you. What if it doesn't work? Then it doesn't work. But you'll know you tried, and that's worth more than running. Maria drove her back to Manhattan. The morning traffic was terrible, giving Lena too much time to think, to doubt, to wonder if she was making a mistake. You're doing the right thing, Maria said, reading her mind. How do you know? Because you're terrified, and you're doing it anyway. That's how you know. They pulled up to the building. Lena's hands were shaking. Want me to come up with you? Maria asked. No, I need to do this alone. Call me after. Promise. The doorman looked relieved to see her. Miss Brooks, Mr. Vale's been... I know. Is he home? In his office. Lena took the elevator up. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The penthouse was quiet. Too quiet. She found Ethan in his office, staring at his computer screen. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, the kind of exhausted that came from not sleeping. He looked up when she entered, went very still. Lena. Hi. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan stood slowly, like he was afraid she might disappear if he moved too fast. You came back. I came back. Why? The question was so quiet, so broken. Because I was wrong. About leaving. About protecting you by running away. She stepped into the room. Because I love you. And I'm tired of being scared of that. Something in his expression cracked. I thought I'd lost you. You almost did. I almost let you. She moved closer. But someone very wise told me that love isn't about protection, it's about presence. Eleanor. She's terrifying and wonderful. Yes, she is. He crossed the space between them. I'm sorry for everything, for the scandal, for the contract, for putting you in this impossible position. I'm sorry too, for running, for not trusting that this could be real. Is it? His hands found hers. Real? Yes. Messy and complicated and probably doomed to have more scandals. But real. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of all the words they hadn't said. When they pulled apart, they were both shaking. Where's Sophia? Lena asked. With Caroline. I didn't want her to see me falling apart. He touched her face like he still couldn't believe she was there. She's been asking for you, every hour, wanted to know when you were coming home. I'm home now. Are you? Really? Yes. If you'll have me. If I'll... He laughed, broken and relieved. Lena, I've been in love with you since you stood in that service corridor and called me out for humiliating you. Maybe before. I just didn't know it yet. That's a terrible confession, very unromantic. I'm a terrible romantic, but I'm yours. If you want me. I want you, contract or no contract, scandal or no scandal, all of it. They stood there in his office, holding each other, and for the first time in days, Lena felt like she could breathe. Sophia came home an hour later. Caroline brought her in, and the little girl stopped in the doorway when she saw Lena. You're back, she whispered. I'm back. You promised you wouldn't leave. I know, and I broke that promise. I'm sorry. Sophia's face was doing something complicated, fighting between anger and relief. You left the ring, she said. I did. I didn't want it if you weren't coming back. Lena knelt down. I was scared. Scared of messing up your life. Scared of not being good enough for you and your dad. So I ran. But that was wrong, and I'm sorry. Are you staying now, for real? For real. If you'll forgive me. Sophia thought about it. Then she pulled Eleanor's ring from her pocket and held it out. You have to promise again. No more running. I promise, no more running. Sophia slid the ring back onto Lena's finger. Then she launched herself into Lena's arms. I missed you, she said into Lena's shoulder. I missed you too, baby. Ethan watched them with an expression that made Lena's chest hurt, like he was seeing everything he'd ever wanted and couldn't quite believe it was real. That evening, they had dinner on the balcony. The three of them. Lena had made pasta, badly, and Sophia laughed at the lumpy sauce. It's terrible, Lena admitted. It's perfect, Ethan said, and meant it. After Sophia went to bed, Lena and Ethan sat on the balcony, the city lights spread out below them. The Opera Foundation called, Ethan said. They want you back. For the gala. Lena's heart jumped. What? Why? Because I bought them. Well, made a significant donation, with conditions. He looked almost embarrassed, one of which was that they reinstate you. Ethan, you can't just... I can. And I did. You earned that spot. They had no right to take it from you because of me. That's not how this works. Then we'll change how it works. He took her hand. I'm done letting other people write our story. From now on, we write it. Together. The gala performance was in 2 weeks. Lena threw herself back into rehearsals. The conductor was surprised to see her return, but professional enough not to ask questions. She was better this time. Focused. The fear and doubt that had plagued her before were gone, replaced by something stronger. She wasn't singing to prove herself anymore. She was singing because she loved it, because it was hers. Ethan came to every rehearsal he could, sat in the back of the hall and watched her work. Sometimes Sophia came too, quiet and attentive, studying her like she was learning secrets. You're different, the conductor said one afternoon. Stronger. I stopped running, Lena said. He smiled. Good. Running ruins the breath control. The night before the performance, Lena couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony, looking at the city, and felt the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on her. Tomorrow, she'd be singing for the people who'd torn her apart online, who'd called her a fraud and a gold digger, who'd decided her story before knowing any of it. Part of her was terrified. Part of her couldn't wait to prove them wrong. Ethan found her there. You're going to be incredible tomorrow, he said. What if I'm not? Then you'll be incredible the next time. And the time after that. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. But you'll be incredible tomorrow. I know it. How? Because I've heard you sing when you thought no one was listening. When you were just making breakfast and humming. When you were teaching Sophia and got lost in the music. He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. That's when you're most powerful. When you forget to be afraid. She turned in his arms. I love you. I love you too. He smiled. Even when you make terrible pasta. She laughed, kissed him. Let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow would be perfect. It wasn't perfect. The opera house was packed, every seat filled. Lena could feel the weight of their attention, their judgment, from backstage. She wore a dress the color of midnight. Her hair was pulled back, Eleanor's ring on her finger. In the front row, Ethan sat with Sophia on one side and Eleanor on the other. He caught her eye before the curtain rose and mouthed, "You've got this." The orchestra began. Lena walked onto the stage. The lights were blinding, the audience a dark mass of expectation and doubt. She closed her eyes, found the music inside herself, found the truth Eleanor had talked about. Then she sang. It was the aria from the birthday party, O mio babbino caro. But this time, it wasn't about proving anything. It was about truth. She sang about love and longing, about fighting for family, about the impossible distance between who you are and who the world wants you to be, and choosing yourself anyway. Her voice soared through the hall, clear and strong and absolutely fearless. In the front row, Sophia grabbed Ethan's hand. Eleanor had tears in her eyes. Ethan couldn't breathe. When the final note faded, there was a moment of perfect silence. Then the applause crashed over her like a wave. People stood, shouted, demanded an encore. Lena opened her eyes and saw them, really saw them, not as judges or critics, but as people moved by something real. She bowed. Once, twice. Then she looked at Ethan. He was standing, clapping so hard his hands had to hurt, and his face was wet with tears. She'd done it. Not perfectly, not without fear, but she'd done it. The after-party was at the opera house, champagne and congratulations, and people who'd ignored her weeks ago now wanted to talk about future performances, recording contracts, European tours. Lena smiled and nodded and felt Ethan's hand steady on her back the entire time. You were magnificent, someone said. A director from La Scala. Thank you. We should talk about next season. I'd like that. When they finally escaped an hour later, Lena's face hurt from smiling. That was exhausting, she said in the car. That was your future, Ethan said. Sophia was asleep against Lena's shoulder. They'd let her stay up late, and she'd fallen asleep the moment they got in the car. What about our future? Lena asked quietly. What do you mean? The contract ends in 4 months. We never talked about what happens after. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then, I want to renegotiate. Her heart stopped. What? New terms. New arrangement. He looked at her. I want forever. Real marriage. Real family. All of it. Ethan, I know it's fast. I know we should probably wait, be practical, think it through. He took her hand. But I'm done being practical. I love you. Sophia loves you. You're already family. Let's make it official. We're already married. Contract marriage. I want the real thing. Vows that mean something. A future we build together. Lena felt tears burning her eyes. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. I know. I'm terrible at this. Ask me properly. He laughed. Then he got down on one knee right there in the moving car, with his sleeping daughter between them. Lena Brooks, will you marry me? Again? For real this time? Yes, she said. Yes, yes, yes. He kissed her while Sophia slept and the city lights blurred past the windows. They told Sophia the next morning. She was eating breakfast, actual good pancakes that Ethan had ordered from a restaurant, when Ethan cleared his throat. Your dad and I want to talk to you about something, Lena said. Sophia looked up, instantly wary. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. The opposite, actually. Ethan glanced at Lena. We want to get married, really married, not contract married, actually married. Sophia's eyes went wide. Like with a wedding? Yes, with a wedding. Can I wear a fancy dress? You can wear the fanciest dress in the world, and I can help plan it? Absolutely. Sophia thought about it. Then, does this mean Lena's my real mom now? The question hung in the air. Lena's throat was tight. I'll never replace your mom, but I can be someone who loves you, if you want. I want. Sophia looked at both of them. I want us to be a real family. We already are, Ethan said. We're just making it official. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in Eleanor's garden. Late spring, when everything was blooming. Sophia was the flower girl. She took the job very seriously, practicing her walk for weeks. Maria was Lena's maid of honor. She cried through the entire ceremony. Eleanor officiated. She had some kind of online minister certification from years ago and had been waiting for an excuse to use it. We're gathered here today, Eleanor said, to watch these two idiots finally admit they're in love. Lena laughed through her tears. Ethan couldn't stop smiling. You were supposed to make this romantic, he whispered. I'm 82. Romance is overrated. Honesty is better. Eleanor looked at them both. You've been through hell to get here, scandal and judgment and every reason to give up. But you didn't. You fought for each other, for Sophia, for this family. She paused. That's what love is. Not grand gestures or perfect moments. It's showing up when it's hard. It's choosing each other every day, even when the world says you shouldn't. It's building something real from broken pieces. Lena looked at Ethan, at this man who'd started as a stranger, humiliating her at a party, and become her whole world. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. They exchanged rings, real ones this time, not borrowed from Eleanor. You may now kiss, Eleanor said. Finally. The kiss was soft and perfect and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Sophia was there, squeezing between them. Group hug, she demanded. They laughed and pulled her in. And standing there in Eleanor's garden, surrounded by people who'd become family, Lena finally understood what she'd been running from all those years. Not love, not belonging. She'd been running from the fear that she didn't deserve it. But she did. They all did. The reception lasted until sunset. Dancing and terrible speeches and Sophia eating so much cake she made herself sick. This is the best day ever, she said, lying on the grass with frosting on her face. Agreed, Lena said, lying beside her. Ethan joined them, loosening his tie. My grandmother just told me she expects grandchildren within 2 years. Eleanor needs to mind her business, Lena said. She's 82. She has no intention of minding her business. They lay there together, watching the stars come out. What happens now? Sophia asked. Now we live, Ethan said. Together, as a family. What about work? And singing? And all the stuff? We figure it out. As we go. He took Lena's hand. No more contracts. No more plans. Just us. Lena looked at the ring on her finger, at the little girl beside her, at the man who'd seen her when she was invisible and loved her anyway. Just us, she agreed. 6 months later, Lena sang at La Scala in Milan. Ethan and Sophia were in the front row. She dedicated the performance to them. A year after that, Ethan stepped back from day-to-day operations at Vailtech, appointed a new CEO, stayed on the board but focused more on family. 2 years after that, Sophia started formal voice training. She was good, really good. She gets it from you, Ethan said, watching her practice. She gets it from herself, Lena corrected. We just gave her space to bloom. They had dinner together every night, no matter what, no matter how busy their days were. It was a rule, a promise. Family first, always. Some nights they talked about everything. Some nights they barely spoke, just existed together. Both were perfect. The scandal faded. Marcus Chen's company collapsed under investigation. Victoria married someone else, someone richer, and disappeared from their lives. The world moved on to new controversies, new stories, and Lena learned that the most radical thing you could do was simply be happy. Loudly. Unapologetically. She sang at opera houses around the world, built a career on her own terms, taught masterclasses to young singers who reminded her of herself. Ethan transformed Vailtech into something more ethical, more human, focused on innovation that actually helped people. Sophia grew up surrounded by music and love and the knowledge that family wasn't about blood or contracts or perfect moments. It was about showing up, choosing each other, building something real from broken pieces. On their 5th anniversary, they went back to the Ashford Grand, the same ballroom where it all started. Should we recreate it? Ethan asked. I could humiliate you. You could sing, for old time's sake. You're an idiot. I'm your idiot. Unfortunately, but she was smiling. They danced in the empty ballroom, no music except what they hummed, no audience except each other. Do you ever regret it? Ethan asked. All of this. The scandal, the contract, the chaos. Lena thought about it. About the girl she'd been 5 years ago, invisible, scared, convinced she didn't deserve good things. No, she said. I don't regret any of it. Not even the terrible pasta. Especially not the terrible pasta. They danced until the night manager politely asked them to leave. Outside, the city was alive with lights and noise and possibility. What should we do now? Lena asked. Anything we want. And for the first time in her life, Lena believed him. Because home wasn't a place. It wasn't a contract or an arrangement or a carefully planned future. Home was this, right here, with these people who'd chosen her and kept choosing her every single day. Home was love, messy and imperfect and absolutely real. And it was finally hers.